Hi, my name's Zane, and today I'm going to talk to you about Final Cut Pro 10. I'm using 10.12 for this demonstration. If you're using a version previous to 10.1, you might notice there's some subtle differences. Actually, they're quite significant differences in 10.1 and 10.0, but not important right now. This is going to be one of a series of tutorials, video tutorials about using Final Cut 10, and in this first one I'm just going to give you a basic overview and talk about Final Cut 10 and a lot of the bad press it's been receiving and why I think it's wrong. So first of all, it's a quick history lesson. Apple, actually I think they bought Final Cut originally back in about 2000 and replaced a lot of people's use of Adobe Premiere, which at the time didn't come out on OS X. There's a whole bunch of stuff, and so Final Cut really took hold of the market really quickly and gained a lot of love in the industry. It was much more affordable than a lot of solutions, and Apple invested a lot of time and effort into it. A couple of years back, it seemed to stagnate for a while they were working on this mysterious replacement for Final Cut 7, sorry. And when it came out, people were less than impressed. It got a huge amount of bad press. Professionals were calling it, iMovie Pro, and including myself actually. In fact, if you have a look at my blog, you'll probably find me going on about how it's terrible and horrible and all these yucky things. Well, I'm going to sort of say that that's wrong. Yes, there are a few key features missing. They are slowly coming back, but it is a complete rewrite of the program. It should really have a different name, and it's actually really fresh. And once you've used it on a few projects, you might even grow to love it as well. Okay, one thing that does bug me about this new version is their use of, or the change of terminology. So, let's just get this right. Libraries in Final Cut X is the equivalent of a project in Final Cut 7 or pretty much any other program. So in the old days you have a project, and inside that project you'd have bins with all of your clips and your sequences in it. Okay, so that project that you'd have open is a library in the new Final Cut. Now a library is actually like a packaged up document that lives on a hard drive somewhere. It is made up of events. So the events are kind of like bins. Okay, so you could think of an event, yes, as a wedding or a short film or something like that. Inside your events, inside there you would have your projects, which is a timeline or a sequence. Again, I didn't make this up, it's kind of annoying, and you will hear me calling a project a timeline or a sequence. I apologize, and you probably even hear me calling a library a project or whatever. So yeah, it's kind of annoying. You do kind of get used to it to a degree. Anyway, let's import some footage. This is from a failed project because the SD card in my camera died, and I was trying to document a new way of doing 3D shadows when compositing. However, we're going to use it for today's tutorial, so it's not a complete waste of time. It's shot down in my studio, and I'm probably talking about different types of lights. Again, I'm going to go through all this in another tutorial, about importing that is. So here we go, we've got a couple of clips here, and next thing we need is a new project. Again, I'm going to go through all this in some detail, how you can have custom settings, all the rest of it. But for now, we'll just go automatic settings, and I'm going to call it Talk 1. Okay, so I have my new project, and I can grab clips. And then first of all, it's like, oh, what's going on here? I just tried to grab the clip. There's no viewer, there's no canvas. I think you can actually introduce a viewer in Canvas, but again, we'll talk about that another time. The viewer is not called a viewer, it's called a browser. And there is a way of having two of them. However, you will get used to, especially if you've got a bigger screen, I'm using a smaller screen for this tutorial, you'll get used to having one screen. It might feel a bit weird at first, and there's no timeline in here. That would be a nice addition. However, you do get used to it, and it's actually really pleasant having more screen real estate dedicated to your viewer. Okay, I can collapse that off, which is really nice. And at first I freaked out, and when they eventually brought back the ability to have a browser and or view on a canvas, I was stoked, and then realised actually I preferred the new way. So it is up to you. But anyway, there is this browser / viewer, and it changes depending on what you're doing. So if I go and put a clip in here, okay, now it's the canvas, now it's the browser. Okay, you get used to it, and it's much nicer, especially when you're working with full HD and even 4K footage, is to have that extra real estate in there for just viewing it. Yes, you can have separate monitors, of course, and all this rest of it, but you will get used to it. Okay, so here's my shot. Yes, at first you'll get this whole kind of weird sort of what's going on here. You know, you're dragging clips around and it's doing this weird iMovie type thing. I can't put clips wherever I like. They just kind of seem to automatically go flying down here. I think they originally called it the magnetic timeline. And you'll go, this is horrible, what the hell is this? Fair enough. However, I'm going to show you how it is actually really cool. The reason for this magnetic timeline is quite good. First of all, if you want to put a clip anywhere, just change to the position tool, okay, and you can put a clip wherever you like. Okay, now, I've shown you that just so you don't complain about how you can't put a clip wherever you like. Avoid it. You do have to change the way you edit. Now, I'm a strong believer that humans are better at adapting to computers than computers are adapting to humans. So yes, you're going to change your style a little bit, but trust me, it's all for the better. This here is the storyline, and Final Cut assumes, or expects you to use this as the main edit sequence, which for most editors they'll be like, yep, that's fine. You know, I always use video track 1 as my main one. Sometimes you end up working in track 2 and then track 3. Sometimes things get really complicated, and then along comes the client and they want to make changes to the beginning, which means you've got to duplicate sequences and have version 3 and 4, and then they like the end of version 3 and the beginning of version 4, and things become really messy. Then you start moving things around, and you would have found that also in your audio, if one clip gets out of sync with something else, or the title block from somebody's name is now over the wrong person because it was all shifted, things turn to custard. You usually only make that mistake once or twice, and you learn to be very careful when moving things around, and we've got used to that with all the traditional non-linear editing systems. Apple have completely thrown that out, well, not completely, but more or less, and introduced this new way of editing. And yes, it will freak you out at first. Once you get used to it, you're going to love it. Now, why would you love it? So here we go. We've got a couple little clips here. Actually, I'm just going to change back to the normal tool because otherwise I'm going to create gaps everywhere. Yes, a slug is called a gap. Again, they've changed all the terminology. Let's say I've got this little clip here, right? And here's my clip, and then it's got another, what do you call them? Plasma ball, whatever it's called, over the top. Now, normally, if I wanted to delete, let's say I wanted to shorten this clip, right? If I shortened it, I would create a gap. And then I'd have to select everything in all the other tracks and bring them all back. But notice what happened there is that when I pull this back, everything moved with it. Okay, likewise, if I make it longer, it just accommodates it. Also, let's say I decide, actually I want this clip to be first, everything shifts out. Or I can grab this one, and it moves. So we can actually rearrange our entire timeline. I can insert other shots. So let's say, I thought I imported more than that, but anyway. That's a bit weird, isn't it? Okay, lava lamp and plasma ball. Okay. Oh, one weird thing that you'll find, if you're importing a lot of media, and I don't know how Final Cut does it, it's kind of freakish. You can import all this media, it appears in here, and I don't know if you noticed, there's a little like pie chart in the corner. as it was importing. You can actually import all the media, start editing it before it's even finished importing. I have no idea how that works, but it works. Only thing is that watch out, because if you edit too fast and it still hasn't finished importing, you go to export, it goes, I can't do that. The trick is that you'll see this little timer down here. If you click on it, you can see what it's doing in the background, and one of them will be importing. Sorry, it's a little bit off topic, but I just thought, yeah, that's a really cool feature. So yeah, bring in huge big projects and start cutting it before it's even imported. That's just weird, but it works. Okay, so I've got another clip here. Let's say that I want to swap this clip with another clip. No, actually, let's insert this clip in here. Okay, so I'm just going to insert. Boom. Whoa, way too long. But you can see it's just rearranged my entire project. None of the audio has got out of sync. None of the video got out of sync. How about this for a trick? Let's say I wanted to insert a clip underneath this one and above this one. Now normally I'd have to move that up there, and then I'd end up with problems with my audio moving around. Not a problem. I can slip that underneath and it all just moves to accommodate it. So there is a huge amount of freedom involved in this, and it's pretty cool. Yeah, I can rearrange everything and it all just sticks together. So that's what the magnetic timeline is all about. If you do want to separate the audio out, okay, not a problem. I don't know if I've got any audio tracks in here. Oh yeah, here we go. Let's say I want some people. Cool, crowd applause. You'll notice, okay, so here's my audio track. It's attached to this clip here. Everything is attached. See, so if I move this, it's going to move around. It's leaving the audio track where it is. I can actually put the video tracks underneath, and I can even separate out the audio if I want to. So if you want to expand the audio and video and treat them separately, you can. Where is it? One of these two. Collapse, expand audio components. There we go. So there it is. It's still attached, but you can. How did you get collapse audio? So there's a way of separating it somehow. I forgot. Oh, here you go. Detach audio. There we go. Okay, so now it's a completely separate audio track, and I can pull it out and do whatever I like with it. Okay, and it can be it's always attached to that home track. Okay, so your main edit should be happening there. Alright. Let's just get rid of all that. Now, another really cool thing is, what happens if I decided that I want a black and white version of this clip? I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with it, but I want to try it out. So what I'm going to do, if I right click on here, can I do it from here? No, I can't. So select it, go modify, clip, audition, add to audition. I'm going to click. And now I've actually got two versions of the same clip. Oops, hang on. That's because I had that thing selected up there. Undo, undo, undo. Sorry, I want duplicate. Audition, duplicate as audition. Okay, so I've got two versions of the same clip. 1 and 2. This version is going to be, what did I say, black and white. There you go, I'm just going to pop this filter on here. Notice the filters will, oh crikey, let's turn, actually I'm just going to delete, I'll just drop the volume out of that. Okay, so here's the black and white version, and if I want to try it out with the color version, here's the color version. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Actually, let's just rearrange this. Let's put this clip at the end there. And I'm going to make the colored version shorter. So there's the colored version, and here's the black and white version. Pretty cool, eh? So if your client says, hey, can we try that out again, but I want all these clips a little bit shorter, or I want this particular clip with a different filter on it, you can just create an audition and swap it around. So that's some of the major differences with the timeline anyway. I will go over more detail in editing and Final Cut, but it's pretty cool. As well, if you don't like the audition sitting there, you can just go audition, finalize audition, and then that locks it in, no more versions. Okay? I don't know, I don't think I've ever finalized an audition, but you can if you want to. The cool thing with it is that, especially when you're sitting down with a client, is that you can make little changes, and instead of having duplicates of the same project over and over and over and over, you get rid of all that. There's no version 1.2 and 1.3 and 2.1, and then there's a version that's got the beginning of version 1 and the end of version 2, and that's called version 3. All of that's gone. You don't have to worry about it. You can compound clips as well. So if I want to go and say, well, I don't like this big stack, I can create a compound clip. If I can remember how to do it. Oh, you got a new compound clip. Give it a name. Cool. And there's a compound clip. Okay, and I can even say, well, that's cool. How about we stick with that, but I also want to have this version. I can drop that over the top and say, yeah, add to audition. Now I've got two. There's my compound clip one, and there's my new one, which is not a compound clip. So it's incredibly powerful, and it's like, you know, for half of what I was saying, you're probably saying, oh yeah, I could have done that in Premiere. Okay, I couldn't do that, but I could do that. And then eventually you start realizing, hey, the problem with the old way of working was things would get out of sync. It got really messy. You're constantly trying to select all your tracks and move them around. There's no way you could just adjust the size of everything, and everything else will just expand and contract. So that's why I think Final Cut is a professional application. It's incredibly powerful. And then on top of all that, you've got a really nice way of managing all your libraries, or at least in 10.1 onwards you have, which I find fantastic. I have a lot of projects. I can, you know, create smart lists and keyword stuff and all that sort of carry on. It'll organize all your clips for you. It'll even like find your mid shots and your close-ups and all that, although I've had hit and miss with that. We can still you know, edit everything, and we can export stuff. A few other little bits and pieces, especially with color correcting, is quite different. I'll do a tutorial on that. And also workarounds for, especially with working with audio and how that works, because it's quite different. There's a few things I'd like it to be able to do, but the new ways of it assigning audio to what they call roles is actually pretty cool, and it's actually a really nice workflow into other audio editing programs like Pro Tools. So I've had to do professional jobs and work with audio engineers, and I've been able to spit them out a single QuickTime movie with all of the audio channels all grouped together, all perfectly for them. They've loved it, and it's actually worked. Even though it wasn't what they wanted OMFs, we came up with a workaround, and it was actually a really nice, elegant solution. Anyway, yep, so stay tuned. I'll bring some more tutorials. The first one will be on importing, going through all those settings, and basic editing. Until then, see ya.